Hi everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe, and it is Sunday. We are doing breaches of the week. This week in data breaches, absolutely nuts, and we're also going to wrap up with the top 10 healthcare data breaches of 2024. If you're a longtime listener, you know that, quite frankly, healthcare is like half of these or more every single week. This week is no exception, so we're going to wrap up 2024 with this. But as always, I want to start with the people that sent me a lot of this information. That would be Alexei Narkanov, Cornelia Funke, Hugh Pembroke, and Lewis Black. I'm just going to assume that's the comedian. I really hope it is. Either way, if not Lewis, thank you very much. And thanks to everybody. Please keep sending those tips my way. And with that, let's start in healthcare with Stryker. Yes, Stryker, the large medical supplier. Now, on December 5, they filed with Texas after discovering an unauthorized party accessed their infrastructure. They said this resulted in unauthorized access, and we are talking names, medical information, and dates of birth. Stryker is now sending out notifications as well. With that, let's move on to Rhode Island, like the entire state. So hundreds of thousands of Rhode Island residents, Rhode Islanders, I'm guessing is what they call themselves. Anyway, their personal and bank information, including social security numbers, were very likely hacked by an international cyber criminal group asking for a ransom, according to officials, basically this past Saturday. Now, in what Rhode Island officials described as extortion, the attackers are threatening to release stolen information unless they get paid. The breach basically is affecting people who use the state's government assistance programs, which includes SNAP, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, temporary assistance for needy families, and healthcare purchase through the state's Health Source RI. That's according to Governor McKee, basically in his announcement this past Friday. Now, the attackers gained access to RI Bridges, that is the state's online portal for obtaining social services, earlier this month, and the governor's office said in a statement, basically that this was not confirmed initially by their vendor that runs this, Deloitte, but here it is. So with that, the state of Rhode Island and apparently Deloitte were breached as well. And that always stinks, especially when you've got people that, basically do not have resources to, let's say, defend themselves. They all need credit monitoring and whatnot. With that, let's keep going on and pretty much give you a mouthful of a hospital name, because we are talking about the Beth Israel Lahey Health Anna Jacques Hospital, or Jacques Hospital, in Newburyport, Massachusetts. They recently notified regulators that they had a breach on Christmas Day of last year. And for the record, if you didn't know, Christmas Day is a very busy day for us cybersecurity folk, because everybody's hacking everybody while everybody else is celebrating the day. Now, according to the notification sent to Maine, the personal information of 316,342 individuals was potentially compromised in this attack that caused disruption to its systems, and it's appearing to be a ransomware attack. We are talking about demographic information, medical information, health insurance information, social security's driver's license number, financial information, and other personal or health information provided to Anna Jacques. So there it is. Good luck to you all. And moving on, let's do our mini segment simply entitled, If You Just Spent Money on Cybersecurity, You Wouldn't Be Getting Sued, You Wouldn't Have Your Reputation Ruined. And let's start with Park Mobile. If you recall, they had a massive data breach back in March of 2021. They have just agreed to a $32.8 million settlement for those affected. So if you use or used Park Mobile, go get paid. Moving on. USAA, they have agreed to pay $3.25 million to settle a proposed class action over a 2021 data breach affecting thousands of their customers. 22,600 people are in the settling class, and if everybody participates, you're getting $94 each, so you can put cheese on that burger when you get your money that day. The plaintiffs, basically the lawyers, are collecting, for the record, a third of the settlement, $1.1 million, because that's how they roll. Moving on. Children's Hospital of Colorado is essentially next up. They just got hit with more than a $500,000 fine from the Department of Health and Human Services for violating privacy and security rules. The HHS investigation after two phishing attacks in 2017 and 2020 breached email accounts, and more than 10,000 people's protected health information was caught up in this. HHS said in a press release that the first reported breach compromised the email account containing information of 3,370 individuals. The department found it had happened because multi-factor authentication was disabled on an email account, end quote. And yes, this is why we do this. You might not like it, but you need to enable MFA. I can't tell you how many data breaches or incidents we've been called into where if you had just used MFA, we never would have gotten a call and you wouldn't be having your reputation ruined. Moving on, SAG-AFTRA. I literally just spoke about them in last breaches of the week, and it's record time these days because now SAG-AFTRA members are suing the union health plan over the data breach that exposed their personal information. The proposed class action accuses SAG-AFTRA of failing to adequately safeguard member data for obvious reasons, etc. And so here we are. The class is seeking at least $5 million in damages. We'll see what happens. But if you're an actor or in SAG-AFTRA and your health plan was affected, here we are. You're going to get $94? I don't know. Not much. Moving on. And for the record, that basically ends our mini segment, which I should have mentioned. And if any of those organizations had just spent money on cybersecurity, they wouldn't be getting sued or fined, and they wouldn't be losing their reputations. Now let's go back to regular data breaches and talk about the Center for Vein Restoration. They announced that they suffered a cybersecurity attack that impacted 446,000 of their members or patients and employees. We are talking about names, address, dates of birth, social security, driver's license numbers, medical record information, medical record numbers, health insurance information, financial information, and employment information. So if you have anything to do with the Center for Vein Restoration, heads up to you. Moving on, let's talk about Sabre or Sabre, if you know The Office. GLBL Inc., no idea what they do, but they just filed with Maine after discovering unauthorized people, humans, whatever, in their network. Now, Sabre explained that essentially what was hit was names, social security numbers, dates of birth, employment information, financial account numbers, passports, driver's license, and signatures. That's always fun, and they are sending out notifications as well. So if you know anything about Sabre or Sabre, heads up to you. Moving on. ABC Legal Services on December 6th, they filed with Maine after discovering an unauthorized party in their infrastructure. They said consumer information was hit, do not have a listing of that, but ABC Legal will be sending out notifications as well. Moving on, Young Life. I don't know what that is, but rejuvenation services, I don't know. The Fountain of Youth. But anyway, Young Life filed on December 12th with Maine after discovering an unauthorized party in their computer systems as well. We're talking names, social security numbers, financial account information, and payment card information was compromised. Young Life is sending out data breach notifications to all 51,226 of you that were affected. Moving on, Highgate Hotels. Sounds kind of snooty, but kind of nice too. On December 6th, they also filed with Maine after discovering an unauthorized party was able to gain access to their infrastructure. We're talking about names, social security numbers, driver's license or state IDs, financial account information, passport numbers, health information, and health insurance info as well. Highgate Hotels is sending out notifications, and if you've ever stayed there, let me know. They do kind of sound nice, even though they don't have good security, and now they're going to get sued. Anyway, moving on. Emergis Health on November 18, they filed, aka Maxim Health Staffing for the record, they filed with Maine after having several email accounts compromised. In this notice, Emergis, aka Maxim Health Staffing, explained that the incident resulted in an unauthorized party being able to gain access to sensitive information. I do not have a listing, but Emergis is sending out notices. Moving on. American Addiction Centers on November 25, they filed with U.S. Health and Human Services after discovering information basically was subject to unauthorized access. And AAC, basically the American Addiction Centers, basically said this resulted in sensitive information of which I do not have a listing, but they are sending out notices as well. Moving on. SRP Federal Credit Union on December 12th. They filed with Maine after discovering an unauthorized party. Man, everybody's filing with Maine this week. Anyway, they were basically filing with Maine after discovering an unauthorized party in their network. SRP Federal Credit Union explained sensitive information was accessed. Again, no listing, but 240,742 individuals will be receiving notifications. Moving on. Artivion Inc. on December 9, they filed with the SEC. There's a new one on November 21 of this year as a result of the cyber attack. Artivion explained that the incident resulted in, quote, the acquisition and encryption of files, end quote. Fancy way to say they were ransomed and extorted. Now, Artivion noted that they're still investigating this, but if they are revealed to have access to consumer information, they'll be sending out letters of notification per law. Moving on, Krispy Kreme. Yes, the delicious donuts from the South that have made it all over the United States. Really good, for the record, if you've never been there. On December 10, Krispy Kreme filed with the SEC after discovering an unauthorized party on their network, and Krispy Kreme explained the incident had resulted in some quote-unquote operational disruptions, but the damage could not be assessed until they complete their investigation. So if Krispy Kreme's investigation reveals that you got hit when you were just enjoying your donuts at a Krispy Kreme, you're going to send a notice out as well, and hopefully you're not going to get one of those. Krispy Kreme, actually a really good place, I'm not going to lie, better than Dunkin' Donuts. I know I'm going to get hate for that, and I do love Dunkin' Donuts, which is actually down the street from my house. Moving, and I'm not a big donut fan, for the record, but donuts are good. And with that, let's move to our finally here. It was a shorter week, not for lack of trying to find these things, but here we are. So let's talk about the 10 largest healthcare breaches of 2024. And obviously, these continue to disrupt operations and jeopardize patient privacy throughout this entire year, as they did last year as well. And basically, as shown by the record-breaking figures displayed at the HHS office for the Civil Rights Data Breach Portal, it's rather prolific. And I said every single week, minus 1 or 2 weeks out of the year, I am doing breaches of the week, where I am looking for these things. And as I mentioned earlier on, half or more of the breaches that I do every week around the world, for the record, but obviously here in the United States, are data breaches that involve healthcare in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the actual handling of patients or whether it's billing or, staffing, whatever it is, healthcare related stuff is huge. Now, an analysis of OCR's, or the Office of Civil Rights portals, show that as of December 9 of 2024, we have more than 168 million individuals affected by healthcare data breaches reporting to the OCR this year. And that's just Americans, for the record. Like that's almost half of all Americans are those residing in the United States that have been affected, including Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico. Now, and American Samoa. Can't forget American Samoa, beautiful islands. Now, that total, while allegedly record-breaking, is likely to rise slightly as OCR continues to receive, obviously, 2024 data breaches, and they will continue to do so into 2025. So, let's review the top 10 here. And if you're a longtime follower and listener, you know number one on this, true to my heart, because I reported on this absolutely forever, was Change Healthcare. Change Healthcare, 100 million people affected right out of the gate on February 21, basically of this year. Change Healthcare, which for the record is part of United Health Group and Optum. Basically, they began experiencing disruptions. Roughly 1/3 of all patients could not get prescriptions, which could be a life-ending event for some of those people, especially if you're on critical medication. So not a good look. Obviously, Change Healthcare recently in the news because unfortunately their CEO was assassinated in New York, and we all know that one. Moving on, number 2 for this year, Kaiser Foundation Health Plan, 13.4 million affected. In April, Kaiser basically notified 13.4 million individuals that certain technologies on their websites and applications were essentially scraping all of their data and then sending it to Google, Microsoft, and X, formerly Twitter. And that has been a huge problem that we've seen basically throughout the United States. Something like 80% of the top 100 hospital systems in the United States were all basically sending this data through their web portal. So you'd go to the web portal, you'd set up your appointment for, whatever kind of exam or operation or procedure or whatever you're getting, and Google, Microsoft, Twitter, Facebook, etc. were getting wind of this. Absolutely insane. Moving on, the next one up is Health Equity for 4.3 million individuals. They basically filed in July of 2024, and they had a multi-million record data breach, and so by virtue of that, they also filed with the SEC for 8K. Obviously, a huge issue as well. They are also a financial institution that focuses on healthcare. Moving on, Concentra Health Services for 3,998,163 individuals. This is back in January. Now, this was tied to a previously reported breach at a medical transcription company known as PJ&A, or Perry Johnson and Associates, and that data breach occurred in May of 2023, and as a result, supply chain hits count because here we are. Moving on, the next one up, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. This, interestingly enough, is the outfit that I believe Dr. Mehmet Oz will soon be running as appointed by the incoming president. Anyway, they got hit this year for 3,112,815 individuals. In September of this year, CMS notified individuals of third-party data breaches that stemmed from a Wisconsin Physician Services Insurance Corporation, or WPS, which was a contractor that handled Medicare Parts A and B claims for essentially the national service of Medicare and Medicaid services. Not a good look. Another supply chain hit. Moving on, Acadian Ambulance Service. And for the record, I talked about all of these through the year. This was a walk down memory lane for me. Acadian Ambulance Services, 2,896,985 individuals affected. They basically suffered a cyber attack in June that essentially hit current and former patients. And basically, we are talking about these individuals in Louisiana, Tennessee, and Mississippi. So heads up to you, if you use Acadian, you got hit. Moving on, Save RX, 2,812,336 individuals affected. In May of this year, the Nebraska-based pharmacy benefits management company notified everybody that they actually got hit in October of 2023. And again, we are going through by notification of this year, even if they got hit years ago. So Save RX taking their sweet time to let everybody know they got screwed. Moving on. Web TPA, 2,518,533 individuals impacted. Now, a third-party administrator, that's what Web TPA is, or a third-party administrator that basically processes health plan claims, suffered a data breach in April of 2023, and that's when it started, when an unauthorized party gained access to their personal information. They didn't figure it out apparently until this year, and then had to declare. So long-term breach, not a fan of that. Number 9 on the list is Integris Health. 2,385,645 individuals impacted. Integris Health is an organization that operates in basically 16 hospitals and other healthcare facilities throughout Oklahoma. They got hit in November 2023, but they reported in January of this year, so it counts for this year. Not good, so heads up, Oklahomans. And finally, we've got Medical Management Resource Group for 2,350,236 individuals hit. Now, MMRG, basically was doing business as American Vision Partners, and they reported a data breach basically back from November of 2023 in February of this year, and they provide administrative services to ophthalmology practices. Again, not a good look, but healthcare continues to be a huge issue. This is one vertical here in the United States that obviously is beyond critical, as is healthcare is beyond critical in any country, but by virtue of this is a huge issue. And one of the big problems we see in cybersecurity is that oftentimes the healthcare industry is vastly behind. Not to mention the fact they have huge amounts of unique things like IoT because of all the health devices. Health tech is a huge industry, not to mention biotech. So we're going to keep seeing healthcare data breaches, but it really underscores that HIPAA compliance in and of itself is a huge standard. And interestingly enough, I can't tell you how many assessments we've done in healthcare organizations, just, on the business side of my life, to medical or healthcare organizations where they not acknowledge and recommend and understand and acknowledge that there is basically HIPAA compliance that they need, but they also don't realize that there are actual cybersecurity framework guides for this put out by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. NIST 800 has literally its own subset. It's like 60 or 68 that basically is for securing your medical facility, your healthcare outfit. So get on it. It's a huge problem that we have, and we'll continue to see data breaches left and right through 2025, and I ain't going anywhere. So unless the asteroid hits the Earth, keep tuning in every Sunday and or whenever you hear my radio show. So with that, thank you very much. Those are your breaches of the week. Yeah, you were impacted, especially if you're here in the United States. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And now Blue Sky. Don't forget Blue Sky. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.